from ministers from Uganda and our own, leaders of business from our two countries, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, good evening to you all, and I wish to welcome you to our country. I know others have done that before me. I wish to welcome our Ugandan guests and congratulate you on your country's 51st independence anniversary that you celebrated 2 days ago. Rwandans share in your celebration, as indeed we do in many other things that bind our peoples. It is pertinent that we meet to discuss how we can strengthen business ties between our two countries. We are here to explore fresh investment opportunities and establish new business partnerships. In actual fact, this is not very new. It is a continuation of a process that has been going on for a very long time. Rwandans and Ugandans have been doing business with each other long before the two countries, Rwanda and Uganda, became modern states at the level they are today. So, continuing the tradition, this forum will help cement the ties between our two business communities. Rwandans and Ugandans expect that this meeting and the discussions you have had day long will generate concrete and implementable actions that will foster the growth of trade and investment in this region. Historically, African nations have focused beyond the continent as the main source of trade and investment opportunities. I think earlier on, this was talked about and figures even given as to how our intra-African trade accounts for a very small percentage of the continent's total trade. So Europe was talked about at around 60%. Southeast Asia, many times what we have in our continent. North America, you know that. But of course, they are better off for this very reason. So it's up to us. We Africans, we really have to re-examine what what the matter is, what's the problem. Because we know all this, we have all this information. But let me continue and come to that maybe later. This intra-African trade points to the immense potential for countries such as Uganda, Rwanda, and other East African partner states. We need to strengthen our trade linkages, and in fact, we are already seeing that hopefully we can move faster than where we are as relates to that pace. If you look at, again, figures in the last 5 years, total trade between Uganda and Rwanda almost doubled from 158 million US dollars to 241 million US dollars. Yeah, but as we know it, and as we understand our own situation, what we should be having should be much higher than this. Because I can see this money may be in some individual pockets here. So the two countries cannot be at this level. If we did what we ought to, I think we can do much, much, much better than this. But still, the fact that we have moved from what I said to where we are is something that we should be happy about, at least signaling the pace at which we are moving, and even if we are starting late, we can still increase the pace. But this is not surprising given the recent strong economic performance in both our nations in many sectors, and how healthy and resilient our economies are increasingly becoming. We have seen average GDP growth of between 6% and 8% for both of our countries, and consequently, lives have improved, the lives of our people. I think someone mentioned a figure relating to lives improved in Rwanda, where 1 million people were lifted out of poverty in 5 years. Moving forward, we will increasingly realize that opportunities and solutions for economic growth lie within ourselves and our reach. The East African market is a key component of this future, and regional investment will drive its development. Evidently, much more needs to be done, especially in investment. And if you look at 2012, the Ugandan private sector injected 30,000 million or 30 million US dollars worth of investment into the Rwandan economy. Again, this should be much higher. 30 million between Uganda and Rwanda. So when I saw this, I thought somebody gave me a wrong figure, but okay, let's be happy with 30 million, but think about increasing it to, say, 10 times this at least, right? I'm pleased that you dedicated a good amount of time earlier today deliberating on the policies and opportunities that should catalyze more engagement. Rwandans and Ugandans both have a wealth of similar investment opportunities across many sectors, some that are waiting to be explored. For Uganda, there is the most recent significant discovery of oil, which will positively impact Uganda's economy and that of the region. We share tourism resources like the Virunga Massif that is home to the mountain gorillas, one of the world's endangered species. I am confident that we can share experience and expertise in agribusiness and agro-processing, manufacturing, tourism, ICT, financial services, and I wish to encourage and invite business leaders from both our two countries to seriously engage with one another and just increase the pace again and the substance of the discussion. Because I think where we have a problem, forums like this that are very useful have taken place before. We'll have many more coming in the near future. I think the question we should always be asking ourselves is, what is there to show for that? We shouldn't really miss this. At the end of the day, it's not how many forums and meetings we have had, it's how much have we made in the way of progress. That also should directly impact the lives of our people and the wealth of our countries. Of course, this is not an issue of one side. It's not the business people alone. It's not the governments alone. It's again not even the business and the government doing anything or nothing. It's really whether we do the right thing and that we are capable of, that we have means for, and so we should be trying to understand what goes wrong. To ensure that this happens, that's why we have developed several areas of cooperation, ranging from trade and commerce to security, education, information and communication technology, health, tourism, as well as technical and cultural cooperation. For the same reason, we are committed to greater and sustained expansion and integration of economic activities for the economic and social development of our nationals In addition, we should continue to tap the benefits in the East African Community Common Market, assuring the free movement of goods, persons, and labor, the right of residence and establishment of business, and the free movement of services and capital, among others. This is essential for the growth of the private sector that will drive our economies to more growth and socio-economic transformation. Both our countries are working to eliminate barriers to trade and investment. As you may know, Rwanda is cooperating with partner states to eliminate non-tariff barriers that have persistently impeded trade and investment between the partner states. We are also cooperating with our East African community partners to remove work permits and their requirements for all individuals in the East African region. In the broader African context, we have removed the prior requirement for obtaining a visa for anyone with an African passport. Here I'm talking about Rwanda. You see, it's really interesting. There are certain things, you know, one area when we were listening to one of the speakers and talked about currency, how you have to, you know, from Rwandan currency to Ugandan, you have to go through some route and then come back to, you know, go around. It reminded me of, in many ways, what happens in Africa when we travel. It still happens. An African or Ugandan or Rwandan traveling from our region, say, to one of the countries in West Africa, for you to be there at all or in time, you've got to go through Europe and then, so the same way as we do with the currency, as was being said. You've got to go first visit our European friends, even if it wasn't your intention and you have nothing to do there. And then you come back to Africa, and then you go back to Europe, and then you come back to Africa. So we need to resolve this. And then on the this work permit requirement and the visa issues and so on. So I don't think it was just taking a gamble on our side. We simply first understood, and I'm sure everyone else understands, the importance of it, or why you should do it. The difference always anyway lies between what you know and the benefits thereof, and also what you do relative to that. It's not enough to know and maybe have very good ideas, but if you don't do anything to realize what comes out of those ideas, I think it's a waste of time. And there have been arguments about this. I remember one time I was taken on by people who wanted to understand really why there are problems of visas, especially for the Africans when it comes to visiting African countries. And they were particularly asking me what problems we have found associated with allowing these Africans to travel to our country without these restrictive measures to do with the visas. And one thing they were working on in their reasoning was that, you know, this creates insecurity. That probably Rwanda will soon be attracting criminals because you have made it easy for everybody, for every African. Of course, here the first mistake was to assume that these Africans are criminals necessarily. We have criminals all over the world, so there's nothing African about being a criminal. But my suggestion to them was, you see, on this criminal side of things, I first told them that these Africans or criminals who may want to travel across Africa, of African background, first of all, the ones we have don't need to travel, actually. They are petty criminals. I don't think a petty criminal needs to move from Dakar, Senegal, to come to Rwanda to do that. You will find those with a criminal background who need to take a plane and go to another country are the sophisticated type, right? And these constitute a very small number. But in fact, these ones, because of their sophistication, will easily get visas. So if you think you are complicating, acquisition of visas so that you don't attract criminals, you have actually eliminated innocent people, and it will only be criminals who will access visas, because they know how to get visas that you are trying to make restrictive. So I told them, I don't know what you are talking about. I was telling the people who raised this debate that I don't understand what they are talking about. And so far in our experience, we haven't had this problem of crime associated with allowing Africans to come to Rwanda without restrictive visa processes. On the other hand, I also told them, you don't need to deal with the problem of crime by handling the visa process. Just invest in the institutions, we should invest in the institutions of our countries that deal with the crime. So whether he's an African, poor or rich, who commits a crime in Rwanda or who breaks the law, the institutions that are responsible should take care of that. But if you think you will solve the problem by restricting visas, you just end up with a raw deal. You really have nothing in it, and you are missing out on other very important things. So there are many things to look at in really making our business environment more vibrant, to allow that to expand, and so that our citizens, our business people, everybody to realize this growth wealth and development that we seek to obtain. In this respect, I'm pleased that Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, and now also South Sudan are making progress in the original tripartite initiative that aims at fast-tracking our economic integration. As a result, from January 2014, our citizens will be able to move within our respective countries with just an identity card. And dealing with people who want to commit crime behind that is another issue here. It has nothing to do with this. While tourists can visit any of our countries with a single tourist visa, so all these, as well as the ongoing cooperation we have in infrastructure development, will make a difference for our business communities, I believe. The business community has the challenge and responsibility to make our economies competitive and self-sustaining, of course, within a global context. This is the only way we can truly create prosperity for our people. Before well, I thank you for finding the time to visit Rwanda. As is said many times, that by business people, that time is money, isn't it? Yeah, but let me tell you, I was joking with our officials here earlier on that they made me lose money. Because on my program, they told me I should be here 7 o'clock, right? And before 7 o'clock, I was ready, and I was entering my car to come over and say, wait a minute. We are not ready for you yet. I said, oh, okay, I'll wait. So I started counting how much money I was losing. So I think the officials owe me. I haven't calculated yet how much, but I've lost money. In actual fact, I lost even more earlier, as Richard was telling you. When I was contacted weeks, if not months ago, that there was this event and they really wanted me to be there, I said, well, I want to be there too, but I warned them. I said, this comes close to a date. I'm supposed to be away, traveling for another serious business. I said, and I gave them the date. I said, serious business starts seriously on the 12th, but I normally travel a day before, like many others, so that we are ready for the serious business. So I said, I warn you, 11th and 12th is tricky, so I said, look at how it could possibly be 10th. And the good business people I was talking to told me, assured me, no problem. So on the 10th, I'm sorry here, I'm putting people on the spot, but they should take it lightly. At the end of it, I'll forgive them, but I want us to learn a lesson. So afternoon of the 10th, I consulted my people. I say, you know what? There was another. I said, put off this program because I have something to do that is taking place between Uganda and Rwanda. I said, what is that? We're not aware of that. I said, are you sure? He said, no. And I said, but don't you know that I'm traveling on the 11th? And they said, yeah, we are aware. I said, how did you expect me to travel on the 11th at the same time attend this function? So anyway, one of us had to give in. I did. So I said, well, I have already lost money. I shouldn't lose and miss enjoying the event. So I had to lose one and gain on the other. So I had to shift my plans to today. And probably after we are done with the good meals we had, then I will travel. And catch up with the other event. But what I'm saying here, of course, I don't know whether I'm asking too much from you, but I'm raising some of these things. It's like, anyway, that was my part. I heard something about your part. That some of you who wanted to travel for this event and were in Rukungiri, I think for the Independence Day, right? I heard some people had to drive to Entebbe to take a plane to come to Kigali instead of driving 2 hours from Rukungiri to Kigali. So I don't understand. I don't understand that way of doing business. Because if it was driving you were avoiding, you drove a longer distance from Rukungiri to the airport in Entebbe, isn't it? And then you added the cost of the flight. Yeah, I know some people did that, but in the planning process, I could have gone to Rukungiri, attended the event, and then drive straight here, isn't it? And then earlier on, again, we were told so many things that happen and the way they should happen and so on. How the partnerships, government, business, and so here in our, it has become a culture now. We have even coined some way of saying, putting things, and we say we should be people who don't complain about problems, but who look for solutions. So this is what we talk about every day, and our people have, there is a better way of saying it in Kinyarwanda, but I save you that. I was trying to translate it in English. Some of the things that take our time and even in that we lose money, there is a lot of blame game that goes on, either between government and the business people. Let's say if it is to do with the taxes. Taxes, people say the taxes are high, too many, complicated, and so on and so forth. The government actually maybe doesn't listen, Instead of simplifying that, they even complicate it further. And it's, people spend days complaining to and about each other. But if people sit down, whether it is within the business community, and they really get good understanding of what is it that will enable them to do their business well, even if it involves some difficulties, and also try to understand from their own side the other side. And if it is the government, within the institutions of government, to try and say, why are people complaining about taxes? Why? So that we also try to understand what really the other side needs and why we need to do that, because at the end of the day, when they are successful, we become successful as a government. So people go on and blaming each other. One time a friend of mine who is here came to me a few years ago and presented to me what he had heard from our business community as complaints to do with taxes. And I told him, I said, have a full picture. Look at the business side and look at government. Try to rationalize on what should be taking place on either side, and then merge them and come up with a position that is balanced, that is in the interest of both, that will all put us on the side of gain. And the guy insisted. He said, no, taxes here, it seems you don't know, you really miss. Actually, he even said, no, taxes here are too high, and no. Actually, it was even associated with saying it's too high, and your revenue authority, I'd use my own words, but he said something else. He said, is too serious. It really follows. And I said, what do you want them to do? To look the other side? And it's like, no. So even to the point of saying, you see, you are really insisting on the governance, even though that is right, but it makes the business people uncomfortable. And so I said, I'm failing to get the point. Where do you draw the line? Earlier on, I think, what was talked about, accountability, transparency, and all that. How far do you go? Now becomes the issue. Is there something called too much accountability? Fine. If you call it that way, if there is too much accountability, then you need to know to which level do you bring accountability so that it doesn't spoil anything. Is there something called too much transparency, so that is the level you need to be careful and say, no, if you go beyond this, this is too transparent, and it becomes a problem. If we have agreed that we pay taxes, and we've gone through all the processes and we need to pay taxes, is there a point at which you say, sometimes you need to look the other side and let this guy get away with it? These were some of the questions I kept raising. And then the good friend of mine said, you see, you don't seem to understand me. the danger here is some businesses here are actually relocating to Uganda. And I said, oh, good for them. Good for those relocating, but also for those where businesses are relocating. But let's understand why. And actually, he himself volunteered. It's like, you see, on the other side, they don't do this too much of accountability. I said, oh, no, I said, this is a very, it's a complicated debate. You see? So I said, in drawing the line as to how far we go in insisting on accountability, then we can talk about it. How far do we go, as I was saying earlier on? So, but really the whole issue, I think, is we need to understand every interested party, every stakeholder, what they bring, what they expect to take away, and we find a balance. And at the same time, whichever side, we need to say, but after all, even if we are doing different businesses and then together and then government, policy side and everything, and at the end of the day, the outcome must be that benefits Ugandans or Rwandans. And it is easy to tell that Ugandans, at the end of it, are happy with the outcome of all these activities that take place, that are so many, that are intertwined, they are so complex, and so on and so forth. Then, same time, with Rwanda, Rwandans also, you can tell and say at the end of it, Rwandans are happy. Even if there are these problems that need to be dealt with, the outcome should be that our people are happy with. And now, if we do it on Ugandan side and do it on Rwandan side, it is the same principle we should apply when it comes to Rwanda and Uganda, because at that point we consider it as one. Much as we have started with Uganda, Rwanda, they are doing this, they are saying this, they want to do this, they want to... When all that is said and done, then we need to say, what are the people of Uganda and of Rwanda saying together? Because at the end of the day, we are together. And we are better off together. You know, I was even getting confused earlier on, again, when we were coming here. I was reading, they gave me a list of participants. I know all of those who are here tonight, and on either side. And as I was reading, I found some names on the Ugandan side, supposed to be guests, but last time they were on the list of hosts when you were here in Rwanda, so I was confused. The names that were Rwandan yesterday are Ugandan today. You see what I mean? Same people who were, you know, when going to Uganda, we are going there as Rwandans who are guests to the Ugandan hosts. And then I see them here in Rwanda in the reverse role. So that means there things are not crystal clear. Much as we may want to say, you know, this is one delegation from here, another, no. But One time it is a delegation from here, then another time the same delegation is coming from there. So. But that's a good thing. I'm saying it is a good thing after all. Right? But it's a good thing. I'm sure you won't see me coming to Uganda. I'm not about to become the president of Uganda or the other way around. But for the other citizens and the business people, the sky is the limit. So let me thank you and assure you that we will keep trying to get it right in Rwanda and continue to create appropriate environment and opportunities to make even so that you can make more money. Since therefore Rwanda is open for business and so is Uganda, let us optimize the opportunities. Thank you and all the best to you.